So something that I would love to do if you're up for it, and if you're not, we'll get rid of the awkwardness and we'll just edit it out. But one of the things that I never want to be, I didn't see this path where I would just be talking about tennis all the time. But I remember a point of frustration during my career is I would be watching tennis and I'd hear someone, say, someone would be playing Rafa and you'd see the ball bounce short. And they would go, well, you got to take that on the rise and go in. And I'd go, you don't know what that ball feels like. Like that's not something that it's going up in a way. It's not, a ball that I don't care what it looks like on TV. It's not one that you can actually step in and do something with. So if you're okay with it, I would love to kind of just run through, 10 or 12 names of the top players. And maybe you just talk about what makes them extraordinary and what you think you have to do, what stresses you out about that matchup if you have to go up against them, right? So explain to a dummy like me who hasn't played any of these players, right? I look at the statistics and I look at the RPMs and, when I see that 1 year, all of a sudden Casper Ruud has more RPMs on his forehand than Rafa late in his career, I'm going, I didn't think that was possible. I felt what Rafa's ball is, and it's like a bowling ball when it hits your racket. Talk about Casper. What does that ball feel like when it makes impact on your racket?
Yeah, Casper's ball, especially his forehand, is very, very heavy, and on clay, it's pretty brutal. I think, my kind of goal when I play Casper is, I've had not very much success against him. Actually, it's only in the past that I've figured out how to beat him. And it's really to catch his backhand in a better way, because I wasn't really able to catch his backhand because I was playing too slow. I was kind of moving too far behind the baseline and trying to go closer and closer to the sideline. But he still had time to run around every time. So, and then I'm like, okay, then I should try to play closer to the baseline. But that's tough also on clay, to take everything on the rise because it bounced strange. So when I played him in Barcelona this year, where I had the most success, I just told myself really, really basic, like hit the ball as hard as possible, but to a huge target on the backhand side. And then whenever I have the chance, I move him to the side outside the single lines on the forehand. And then I go again, big, big, big shot, but big target. Like it can even be in the service, but just hit as hard as possible, And I did that, and obviously, I'm never going to be a player that never, do variations. So of course, I'm going to do the drop shot sometimes, but that's not really what I thought about. So that's kind of how I managed to beat him those few times. But again, when he gets to control with his forehand, it's not fun to be on the other side at all, because you have to run so much. It's incredible.
And give our listeners just a little, because I'm always obsessed with margins in tennis, right? So you can play through the court to a big spot, and if you miss that shot by 20%, it's the difference between neutral or ahead, or Casper getting that forehand where you're not getting out of that pattern once he gets a hold of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. But me, I was more worried that my pace on the shot wasn't high enough, because if I put high pace even on his forehand, I don't mind it. But if I give him time to line up and hit the ball, I mind it, So it was really obviously try to catch a backhand. But if I missed, a little inch or here, as long as I had the, intention on the shot and the quality, it was fine. But it was more when, my footwork wasn't right and I didn't, manage to time it the right way and give him too much time. Then it's really, really tricky. And obviously he tries with all his power to move you back with a high top spin to make it tough for you to play fast. But I think, that was like, also I had a day before I played him to practice, and I just hit like 300 forehand and backhands as hard as I could to the backhand side. So it was that was my tactic.
Talk through someone like a Ben Shelton, and how do you deal with that serve and returning spots, and what do you see with Ben?
Yeah, I haven't played him much actually, but I played him one time in Acapulco. And it was difficult. It was more early when he came on the tour, but still great serve. I was doing a little variation on my return position in the first set, and I lost 7-6, and was very, very close to the second set. And I decided to keep my position and step in on every serve, like keep it close to not give him space. I know many would disagree, would want sometimes all of a sudden just to move 5 meters behind and give him a different look. But the thing is, sometimes I confuse myself more than I confuse the other guy by doing this. So I decided just to step in, try to hit his backhand if possible, but at least just, try to make it so he doesn't have time to line up. Um, Again, I don't want to say all my tactics against every player, but again, it was to really push him on the backhand. I think there is no secret that he has much more natural forehand than the backhand. So it was to make him uncomfortable there, to make him stress a little bit, because he's a very explosive player. But I think to make him stress, it can be a little bit too lively for him sometimes. But again, he has extraordinary power and quality of ball.
Talk about Taylor Fritz and what he does well.
Taylor, I always had a tough time playing him also, because Taylor, what we also saw in the statistic, that he never leaves the baseline. I mean, no matter what you do, you play high balls, he stay there. I mean, and he has very good ball control on his rackets. He's, I think maybe looks a little bit more unorthodox when he hits, but he has a brilliant timing on the forehand, on the backhand, really natural serve. I think so. So I think the fact that he has a very high level and he stays there all the match. I think he never really drops. If he gets tired physically, he can drop a little bit, but again, he's very, very confident in the way he plays. I never see him doubting really a shot or something. And as a player, that can be tough, because you can have a break point and maybe I'm a bit tired or someone else is a bit tired, and he's always going to punch the forehand if he has it high, or something like this. So I think this makes him tough. But again, I always try to make him really uncomfortable with slices, with drop shots, weird balls. I try to be the unorthodox player when I play him, and it's worked. I think I beat him only one time, but anyways, that worked that time.
Someone you're probably not more unpredictable than or unorthodox when you play, the crazy man, Bublik, who is now top 10 in the world from 80 in the world last year before.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Roland Garros. Is it hard to play someone and try to predict what they're going to do if they might not know what they're going to do 40 seconds before the point starts?
Yeah, it's difficult, but Bublik is a character for sure. I mean, he has a lot of tennis in him, and I'm actually really happy to see him doing well, because he has potential. And I think it was sad to see him drop down the ranking, because when you have so much tennis in you kind of also, as a tennis player yourself, you want to see them at a higher level, and that he definitely lived up to. And I think Bublik, I mean, obviously very, very natural serve, which makes it tough. You never know if it's going to go or not on the second also. And then the unpredictability on every shot that he hits. It can be pressed on the forehand, and last second he's going to drop shot. It's like you're not expecting anything. And it's just crazy to play. But me personally, I try to play as boring as possible when I play him, because he is a guy that likes when things happens. And I think if you can play as much like just like to cross one line, like practice as you can against him, as better chance you have to win.
So someone that I'm a massive fan of, because I like looking at a player and going, you know what, I don't know that this person's leaving any stone unturned. I think they're getting the absolute so much value out of it every day. Talk about Alex de Minaur and the way that he goes about and the problems that he presents.
Yeah, I think a player like de Minaur is a really a great player. I think he's one of the guys that maximize everything in his game and in his physique and in his mindset. I think he's a bulletproof mindset as well. Like he's tough. He's tough. He never gives up. And I think he also has very, very flat shots. Sometimes can be awkward to hit on, because it sometimes even some backspins on the backhand and the forehand. But really tricky player to play, and very physical. I would say, like, if you're not in shape, no chance to beat him. Because he's even though you try to overpower him, he actually likes that pace. And it's funny when I played him and beat him 2024 in Paris. Before the match and in the warm up, my back got totally stuck, like a spasm or something. So I was like this, and I was like, oh my God, what I'm gonna do? So I got some treatment before the match. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna go in there anyways, and I could not really serve full. I could serve maybe like 150 kilometers per hour, but that actually turned out to be really effective, because I didn't give him any pace. I was just kind of placing the serve to open up the court a little bit, and I won the first set. And I got warmer, I started feeling better, and I served bigger, and I lost the second set. And then, so, and then the third set, I was like, okay, I'm feeling good, but let's try to play like the first set, and then I managed to beat him. But again, he's tough, because especially there on indoor hard courts, for me, the tactic sometimes is try to move him back with spins and stuff like this to make him move a little bit away from the baseline. But on Paris-Bercy, I mean, if you play high, it's not bouncing, so it's like, it's just going through the court. So in that match, I just decided, like, just try to play on your instincts. If it's high second serve return, I remember on the break point at 5-all, I have it high on the forehand, go for the winner, and I made it, and then I served it out. So, there was more about just trusting your gut feeling.
So someone who I've been really impressed with, because 3 years ago, or even 2 years ago, you would have looked at this player and said, okay, on one surface, super dangerous, and then on faster surfaces, not really part of the conversation. But the improvement in Lorenzo Musetti on all surfaces, right? Not just showing up for 3 or 4 months during the clay and making everyone's life miserable. Now at 5 in the world this week. A lot of gains for Musetti. What does he do that bothers planet Earth?
Yeah, I think he's physically very, very good now. He's has a great endurance. So when he plays the long matches, he's not dying, or anything. And I played him in French Open a little less physically good that I could be. And I think what he does well, that he's an all-around player. He's very, very good in defense. I would say one of the best players in the defense in the world. Great hand skills to kind of slice it back, and the lobs he does incredible, which can be really annoying sometimes. But great forehand also, angles really well. Improved the serve a little bit, but again, not the biggest serve out there, but kind of puts it up so he can control with his forehand and create his game that way. And yeah, I mean, I think the tough players to beat. I beat him on grass, and I don't remember where else I played him, but he's a great player on all courts. He made semis of Wimbledon, and I think when I play him, I try to make him again uncomfortable and taking a little bit time out of him. Trying to rush him a little bit, make him more stressful on his swings. Sometimes he can has bigger swings, and if you play fast and try to pressure him that way, I think can be effective. And then obviously when he's out there slicing, sneak into the net sometimes and finish it off can be an effective move also.
The next two, I want you to talk about the differences in these two, because I think they've both been like incredibly successful for a long time now. But I think the average fan tries to loop them into the same category because they're both super tall, super skinny, and have great defensive skills. In this new age of tennis, when I played someone and they were 6'6" or 6'7", they didn't move. Right, you would attack one corner one time, and they would serve, or they could come forward. Maybe the courts were a little bit quicker, whatever it is. But talk about the differences with these two great players, with Zverev and Medvedev.
Yeah, I think let's start with Zverev. I think great serve. He got control on his serve a few years ago when he did the mini double fault. So really good first serve. Can obviously do all the spots that he wants to hit, and great backhand, really flat. I think like really goes through the court, can be annoying if you're not low enough on the legs, and forehand he plays it well. He plays it really well. I think it's definitely not the most natural shot for him. We can all say, but he honestly he did well. I think a match that I saw which was really interesting to watch from this side of the court was against de Minaur in Laver Cup, when de Minaur beat him. And I think, de Minaur's tactic was very, very clear to see, but it was super effective. Every time he had the chance, he would make him come forward with the slice and making him comfortable there. But as soon as, again, you try to play with a lot of pace and try to kind of outplay him from the baseline, he likes it because he moves very good lateral. He struggled a bit more forward and backwards and stuff. But again, I think he has had an incredible career, coming up really young as well. And he's tough, he moves well, great defense, especially, if you attack to the backhand, you can have a very, very tough first volley. So yeah, difficult players play.
And Medi, when people watch, I think it used to be this way with in our generation, I think that weirdly, because one's tall, one's a little bit smaller, but when people would watch Hewitt, you know, in the view of the cameras on television above, they're going, why don't you just step in and rip that ball? It doesn't look like it's going crazy fast through the court. And I'm going, yeah, it's going sideways and it doesn't get above your knees, right? It seems like he is the master at kind of controlling that low ball flight and almost daring you to be aggressive.
Exactly. You know, he's teasing you to go for the big shot, and he loves when you make unforced errors. You know, he's a guy that loves it. So, you know, so that I think that's some of the worst thing you can do is just to try to overpower the ball. So yeah, I mean, Mehdi, you know, I remember I've trained with him so many times because when I was young and training at the academy down in south of France at the Maurice Clos, I was training a lot with him in the off seasons. So I kind of got really used to his game, and you know, he also got really used to my game. But you know, I think it was nice for me to train with him because he was so solid, and I also learned a lot from him. You know, his work ethic is incredible also. And I mean, look at the guy. I mean, world number one. He's been one Grand Slam, many Grand Slam final, incredible career. And I think when you play him, it's difficult. I think the worst kind of rally you can get into is the backhand cross. I think he loves that one. Your backhand cross, he takes you more and more flat outside the court. And when you're all the way there, you know, either he goes down the line or again back behind you. So I think that kind of rally you want to get out of in some way. You can sometimes, you know, myself, I try to use the slice, you know, wherever, line, middle, just to get out of this one. And then I personally try to use the serve and volley a lot because he's so far behind the baseline. But again, if you don't serve well enough, he has time to pass you. So it can be tricky. Also, it has to be the right moment and not all the time. And I think, you know, also he's an animal on the court. You know, he fights like crazy. You know, he's whatever it takes to win. You know, if it has to be on the mental part, it has to be on the physical. I mean, he's not gonna fight someone, but you know, if it's gonna be,
he might.
like grinding you out.
He pulls up just short of that sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, we had a little discussion in Injurball some years back, but yeah, but all good. You know, I think, you know, this year when I played, or last year, I always think it's this year, but last year when I played him in Injurball, I played really, really awkward tennis also when I beat him. I mean, my coach was like always telling me like it's not the right way to play to move forward in your career, you know, because I was playing like sometimes 10 kilometers per hour, just high loopy backhand or something, you know. But again, it was just to sometimes, you know, when you play the other guy's game, it can make them uncomfortable. Like you try to play their game and they don't know what to do sometimes. You know, when you try to play your game and they feel really comfortable in the defense, it can be really tricky. But yeah, great player also.
And obviously, we're going to have you touch on Carlos and that matchup. And you've beaten Carlos before. What do people not understand about what he does? Right? Because it's interesting because I find myself explaining more like the greatness of Novak, right? Because it's not as if he has the biceps like Rafa or he grunts or, you know, the magic of Roger, but like what he does in keeping space and ball flight and everything he's able to do. What Carlos it does jumps off the television screen, right? People who don't know tennis it's fun to watch him.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
What does he do well that people don't fully realize because of kind of all the circus that he kind of plays around him sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, I should say he makes incredible shots here and there, but you know, this is not always. It's not what wins him the matches. I think what wins him the matches is for sure his tennis, but he has an amazing attitude on the court. You know, I think his attitude, his energy. You know, you feel it. You know, you feel the vamos. You know, you feel all of this, and he's. For me, I kind of know that he's been disciplined and taught to behave like this because, you know, when I was a junior, he was, you know, sometimes all over the place. And you know, I think many juniors were. I was also sometimes, and so it's totally normal. But his attitude is very intimidating in a good way, in a respectful way. You know, he's very always on. You can see in his eyes, he's there. He's very consistent in that. And I think if we look more into his game, probably a shot that not many people think about is great is his serve. His serve is really good, you know, because it has so much rotation on it. So you're like, always, oh, the forehand, oh, the drop shot is incredible, or he's running, passing shot, whatever. But the serve is tough. And I remember when I played him in Paris indoor, he was just serving like second serve to my backhand on fast indoor, and I loved it. Just smacked it every time to rush him. And then I played him in Wimbledon the second time, and he was mixing so much up the serve. Like sometimes first serve as a second serve, like spin on the body, then sometimes second serve a bit faster. He made it really uncomfortable that way. And I think this just sets him so good up on the second shot. And then he has a great forehand to follow up with. And you don't know, you kind of know, okay, now he's lining for the forehand, but you don't know if he's coming to drop shot or slice forehand or a winner, So you're like, you're thinking a little bit, what should I do? Should I stay in? Should I move a bit back? Obviously, when I had two legs, I was quite fast, so I could reach a lot of his drop shots.
I don't mean to laugh, man. That's heartbreaking.
yeah. No. But when I had my legs, I was fast to reach his drop shot. But again, you need to be really fast. And then it can be frustrating because he has so much power, and sometimes you feel like I need to play better than him to beat him. I thought that, and sometimes, as you say, less is more, not just harder shots or bigger shots or closer to the line is better. So when I played him, for example, and had success against him in Barcelona this year, I got down a break 3-2, and I started playing much more conservative, much more boring in a way. Like I took the pace off. I was like, try to play within my own pace. Don't try to match his pace, and let's try to get him into my rhythm. And I broke him back, I remember, immediately, and I was very concentrating on this to play this way. And then you see some strange errors sometimes from his side where you're like, okay, I didn't expect that. But, he's, I always say, like, there's no one who's unbeatable for me. I mean, I think everybody can beat everyone. I think, if you find the right way, it's possible to beat these players. It's possible to beat anyone. And I think there I cracked it. I cracked the tactic. And I was very focused. Obviously, a big match. Very motivated to play him in the final. And then he got a little bit hurt in the second set. So it was a little different second set. But again, we all know how it is. Also, to play hurt players can be tricky sometimes. But obviously, I think incredible season that he had. And also one thing, that how much he opens the court with the forehand. Because then he puts your angle there and you're outside the court, and then he doesn't just go line, he plays drop shots. So you have to run like 15 meters to the drop shot. So I think he's very smart in that way.
Yeah, and we'll get to Sinner, but as you're kind of talking through that, it's interesting against the guys that are the best in the world. When you're on the run, it's not just making the shot, right? Because then it's just a slower death, right? But like against a Sinner who's in the middle of the court, like, or you have a second serve return, you have to stick it to make it count. Otherwise, once they get inside, you're going to have to take a massive risk to get out of it. But talk about Sinner from where I sit. I watch him and I go, oh, it's like it's like Novak, except the offense defense, the percentages are flipped, right? Novak was happy with you trying to go through him, whereas Sinner wants to get on the front foot 60 or 65%. Of the time, but he just seems so disciplined with how he goes about his matches.
Yeah, and that's also one thing that I kind of learned a little bit from these two players, especially because, again, I think tennis, the game has changed a little bit. It always changed from generation to generation, but I think these two, they just always commit. They always commit on the shots. Like there's a short ball, they never doubt. Where other players, I think it's very clear to see also on TV, then there's a forehand that you have the chance to punch, they go a little under it and they roll it, where these two, they always go full, but, to big targets and everything, but they're really, really aggressive players. And I think Jannik, I used to kind of like playing him. And I had a feeling that he doesn't like to play me. And now I think I don't like to play him and he doesn't like to play me. I think it's this way now. So he improved a lot. From I think it was 2023 or when he started winning the Grand Slam in 2024, he improved a lot. And he's an interesting player because, for me, it was like he was doing, little similar results to me before he broke really through in the Grand Slam. Like did really well, was an amazing player still, making finals of thousands and stuff like this. But, was just missing the little touch, of becoming the best. And I remember the one summer I was training in Monaco where I was not in my best, time, the one we spoke about earlier. And he was training every day, 4 hours a day, so disciplined with Bagnozzi, like short angle cross down the left forehand, just repeating it all the time. And I was there, chatting to the ball a little bit, all gone. And I was like, okay, so you really understand, like, he really broke through because he just started working better. He worked more serious. I think I was like, can't speak on what exactly he did on his part, but from outside it looked like this. And again, it's not that his game changed so much. He's just better at everything he's doing. He serves better, he returns better, he has his forehand better, he has his backhand better. But it's not like he learned something new for me. Even the volleys, he had it's not his best shot, but he had a decent volley. He still has a decent volley. He just got better in everything. And I think, when I played him in Australia last year, I realized like how much he's, again, always stepping in when there's a chance, like never holding back. He rather miss a few shots by stepping in than waiting for the ball to drop and play with you. I played him in fourth round, and I played this guy Shang, and then I played Kismanovic and Berrettini to come up to Sinner. And the biggest difference that I felt was the guy was always stepping in, always taking the charge when he could.
You all, this generation seems way more open, right? Like I remember Carlos after Indian Wells, he loses to Draper and he's coming. He's like, I'm just not feeling my game. I'm like, we used to lie a lot more than this generation. Like we would just lie to you guys are so open. And Jannik talking about, like, he walked into the US Open press conference after losing to Carlos, after having had the season he's had. And he goes, I need to change a lot of things. And I'm going, shit, man, these guys are like really honest. I would have been stubborn to, that's probably what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
Right. But like you all seem so open and honest with where you're at any given moment in your careers. Yeah. Why?
Yeah, no, but I understand everybody's feeling. I think I would want to be more open also than I am. I'm trying to, even though I'm always curious for advice, but I think what those two are doing so well is that they are so open, because it makes them, it makes them have a chance to always keep improving, like, I think also Jannik changed his serve after US Open. Yeah. And I was like, why? I mean, the guy made, every Grand Slam final and could have won 3 out of 4. Yeah. So I'm like, why would you change your serve? And that's where I come into mind. I think Carlos also changed his serve a little bit now.
He rounded it out.
And he had an amazing serving statistic last year. So you're like, you should just keep doing the right thing. But I think this is the key. I think this is what's great. You're always curious to do better, because if you just stay the same, someone else is going to overtake you. So you always have to find new things. And that's also what I talk to my coaches about. We're making some changes, not that it's the most important thing, but changing some technical stuff now that I have the time on the court, on the shot. And I think this can benefit you, because, when you step out there, you have something that you concentrate on. You don't concentrate, I need to win this point or something. Maybe you're more focused on some detail that can make you more focused or calm in your service game, for example.
I was trying to focus on the guys that I don't know anything about, that I never played. I actually played a guy named Novak 9 times. I don't think that I ever played him when he was in his full prime. I think Novak after I retired in 2012 and Novak before is a very different animal, Holger. But even now, Holger, he's making the semis of every Grand Slam he plays at 38 years old. Talk to us about Novak and what has to go right, because you've played well against him. I know you beat him in Bercy when you won, and I know you beat him in Rome also in the semis one time.
Yeah. For me, he's incredible, and especially what he's doing at this age is phenomenal. He's 38, I should say, still making the deep runs at every slam
every time.
And every time, and people questioning when he should retire, and I'm like, I'm not even doing semis of every slam. I should retire then. I mean, it's it's crazy. Obviously, people are expecting him to win because he is who he is. But still, it's incredible. Only Carlos and Jannik did more than semis in every slam. Nobody else did it last year. So he's still maybe even the third best player at the moment. Even though his ranking is not at that point, just because he's not playing as much. But for me, what is incredible with Novak is how much percentage he's played, and how much actually being disciplined can award you in the right way. And I think it's a brilliant example for me and for many players, but for young players coming up also, because playing the return deep to the backhand, hitting the ball cross deep line, all of these simple shots that you train in the practice, sometimes that's enough. And in his career, that's what he did so many times. When I played him the first time in US Open when I was, I don't know, 18 or something, and I was like really, really nervous, obviously. And luckily I had the chance to practice with him a little bit before that. But again, I was like, okay, maybe what if I don't win a point? I was like so nervous, and then I came in and he was just returning, to me, and he was playing the backhand cross, and I had time to play with him, and I was like, but this is the greatest player, what is going on? But then slowly but surely he makes you move a little bit more. He makes, the returns every time. You don't get any free points. You think you have to go bigger. You start missing some shots. Then he breaks you.
And then your legs start feeling a little worse.
Exactly. Then you get a cramp in the middle of the third, and then you're done. So yeah, I mean, physically, I think also he's maximized everything that he's got. And I think he's the most disciplined on nutrition and physical training and everything that he can do, which is very inspiring also. And I think also one thing, as we spoke about Carlos as well, which people probably don't think, but his serve is so good. His serve is not the fastest.
His serve, by the way, when you compare it to 15 years ago, he was an he was an average server. It wasn't a great part of his game. I feel like he's serving better now than he ever has.
Yeah, he's serving so good. I mean, so accurate. Sometimes, his serve is like 185 or 190 kilometers per hour, but it's on the outside of the line, and you don't believe it, and you see it, on these new cameras in slow motion, and it's just an inch in, and you're like, wow, okay. And especially under pressure, I trained with him. I didn't play him last year, but I trained with him in Shanghai, and I had break points, and every time on the break point, he put the serve on the line, and every time, and I'm like, it's crazy, and I know now he's not practicing as much as he used to do, but he must have practiced an insane amount and very, very disciplined, because otherwise the precision, I don't think it just comes by not doing anything. I think it's by practicing really disciplined, and also, I mean, obviously the return is the best ever, and I think his forehand got a lot better as well. I think a lot more power. You play the ball slow, he has the possibility to put you under pressure straight away, even though he's not, for me, the most aggressive player. But yeah, he learned it.